Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. I know that it is a little bit weird to be doing a kind of broadcast presentation to a room of actual people because I do a lot of live streams. So I'm used to see kind of people on Zoom and stuff like that, or to see people kind of popping up in chat rooms. But to actually have like a bunch of live people enjoying their coffee in the room is very good. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation, and hopefully we get something interesting out of this. And in any event, even if we don't, you're gonna get some nice pictures of cats and stuff. So at least there's going to be some visual to accompany what's going on. Let me say just a couple of things about who I am. First of all, do not be frightened. This is not going to be your traditional, really boring webinar about AI that tells you stuff that you already know. And if I start telling you stuff that you already know, or if it starts getting boring, just do like my students and just kind of pass out in your chairs, and I'll kind of work out that I need to do something different. The reason why this is not your traditional AI and technology webinar is because I am not really a technologist, right? And I am in the normal job a law academic. So I teach at a variety of law schools during the day, most of the time, at the University of Westminster, which is in the center of London, and also online for the Open University and the University of London in their distance learning programs. And I started playing around with stuff in the same way pretty much that everybody else did during the pandemic. I don't know how the university treated you guys during the lockdowns, but we were treated in the same way that everybody else was treated in the UK. They told us from one day to the next, that's it. You don't come in class anymore. Figure out how to put stuff online. And that's what we had to do. So people started wondering, how do we manage to put something online to get the students to do something in a state of complete panic? Hands up in the room. Did anybody have any material prepared to actually put on the virtual learning environment when this happened to you? No, nobody. Hands up if you just did some lectures on Zoom and hope that it was gonna be okay. Who did that one? Nobody. Yes. Okay. Some people. There you go. You have to wave grandly because you are very small on my screen. So if you're gonna have to wave enthusiastically for me to see you. Now, at the time, then I thought, all right, let's figure out what I have available and try and stick it online for the students to have something to do. And I realized I had a bank of online, a bank of recorded resource, either audio recordings, some video recordings, or some of the classes that I had done in the past. And I started trying to package those together to create some content for the students. And very quickly, I realized that this isn't particularly good and it's not working particularly well. All my colleagues did exactly the same. They had to produce some sort of resource to put on the virtual learning environment really, really quickly, which resulted in the award-winning and super famous video of my colleague Richard, which was a recording of his nostril that ran for about an hour and a half when he was delivering a lecture. And you know why he did that? Because Richard is not very confident with the technology. So he thought he needed to be really close to the laptop when he was delivering the lecture to get the sound right. So he sat on top of the laptop like this and then recorded an hour and a half of his nostril that then he uploaded for the students. Now, luckily, the students weren't particularly keen to click on anything on the VLE to watch that stuff. So I think most of them kind of missed that show. But I'm still traumatized by this, and it's kind of 5 years down the line. Now, how does this link to the AI, the avatars, and the goals of this workshop? We have an issue with the quality of the resource that we're making available for the students. And we're having a series of engagement issues as a result. Or at least this is my theory. When we are in a live class with the students, we control the environment. We control our delivery. We can adjust to the way that they respond to us. We can visualize, understand, and react to the environment so we can actually guide it towards more successful outcomes. If we're creating recorded content or we're delivering synchronous content, but from a distance, we have much less control of what's happening in the room. Can we use the technologies that have recently become available to increase the quality of that resource? My theory or my assumption is that things have become easier and better and cheaper. Therefore, we have an opportunity now to create much better quality audiovisual resource that we can throw at our students. And if the quality increases, there is a hope that the students will react with this better and engage with it on a deeper level. Clearly, there's a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, I don't know, you guys are perhaps in a more contained environment, perhaps with smaller numbers of students than the ones that I'm normally dealing with, or students that are there for different reasons and their motivation is slightly different. I am dealing with vast amounts of law undergraduates. Do we have anybody in here who's got a law degree? Yay! Okay. Now, did you choose to do a law degree or did your parents tell you you had to do one?
I chose. Unfortunately, with me, it's all labels. And oh,
Yeah. Most of my students do not choose to be there. They're there because their parents told them they had to do it. Because I'm from Greece, clearly, right? So in Greece, you've got two options. You can become a doctor or a lawyer. In certain other countries, it's a little bit more diverse. You can become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. But in Greece, engineer is not that well respected. So I didn't want to become a doctor, so I became a lawyer. Most of my students are the same, which means that they do not have inherent motivation or inherent interest in the subject. They come, we stick them in a classroom, we start telling them stuff that are way too complicated. Sometimes they're way too boring, or our delivery is boring, and the whole thing makes for a difficult engagement setting. The students have difficulty getting into this material. They then fail to turn up. They fail to engage with the VLE. They don't do well in their assessments. Then I get fired, and then I'm in trouble. To look back to the avatar ideas and the AI, I really hope that I can make a breakthrough this by improving the quality of the resource that I'm making available on the VLE to make it more exciting, more relatable, to bridge the generational gap between my understanding of what educational content should look like and what the new generation's what they think is watchable and what type of educational content might appeal to them. Who in here has got teenage kids? My sympathies and commiserations, Lord. And this is probably why you're in the office today rather than being at home. You're trying to get away from the teenagers. Yes, I'm a sufferer of the same problem. I've got two. One's 15, one is 17. I occasionally see them walking around the house like this. Yeah. Even on the trip to the bathroom. Um, this is an issue for us in the delivery of educational content. These kids are happy to consume content. They're just not happy to consume our content. If you take the attitude that this is a structured learning environment and they're students and they should do as they're told, and if we tell them to read, they should read, and if we tell them to watch, they should watch, and then if we tell them to do stuff in specific ways, they should do it in specific ways, then I'm happy that you guys are in Ireland and not in the UK, because in the UK, somebody would be writing your redundancy letter right now. Yeah. We have gone past the point that we can force the students to do anything. We are now clearly in a domain, in a defensive stance, in a very different domain where we can no longer try and force outcomes on the students. We can no longer force them to change their behavior, but we need to do what we can to go to them. And the technology can give us some opportunity to change the format of our delivery in a way that is more relevant to this generation. We often accuse them of not having attention spans, of not being able to focus on anything, or not being able to kind of do anything for a long period of time. Yeah, but they can watch TikTok for 6 hours straight. They can watch Netflix all day long if you let them, and they will kind of binge all the series and then watch them from the beginning again. So it's not that they're not capable of doing something for a long period of time. They just don't want to do your stuff for a long period of time. A phenomenon, and I'll move because I'm starting to complain now, and that's not a good look. But I'm just going to finish with this. A phenomenon that really happened for the first time in this proportion this year is that they turn up with the headphones in the classroom. I don't know if this has happened to you guys. They come in and they listen to music while they're in the seminar. And so many of them, for the first time this year, so many of them do this. And this has become so normalized within this generation that when you confront them about it, they go, I've only got one. So they, what? Oh, okay. So you're in my seminar. I'm like talking to you. You only got one headset. So you're listening to Spotify like on one ear and you're kind of participating in the class with the other. And they kind of go, yeah. Okay. We need to do something to get the attention of both ears and to get them to look at us when we're talking and to try and engage with us in a more sustained fashion. Okay, now, why are we all here today? Probably you guys, because you're getting the day off to do this and you got some free coffee. But there needs to be some some additional value. We are going to think together about how we can use new technology tools in order to improve the quality of our audio visual resource, and also have a think about whether technologies such as the AI avatars can be used for synchronous and asynchronous teaching, in order to allow us to vary what we do and to bring it closer to what the students of this generation are willing to consume. And from a pedagogy point of view, this, for me at least, links with our aspiration to provide multimodal learning and to break and spread out our teaching content along a series of different media and different types of delivery that then can be helpful for students who are able and willing to learn in different ways. Nobody is suggesting, because I can feel the dissatisfaction at the back of the room there. Nobody is saying that we will abandon what we normally do. I'm not suggesting at any point that we stop our traditional methods of delivery or that we stop using the textual resource that we put on the VLE and we replace it with some sort of TikTok talking robot. We're not going to do this. But what I'm suggesting is that we use the technology to create a whole ecosystem of resource that says the same thing in different ways. You're asking your students to prepare for a seminar, and you said, read this case study and come next week prepared to discuss it. Wouldn't it be an interesting idea to say, read this chapter from the indicated book, or listen to a podcast that is talking about that, if you feel like doing that, or watch a video explainer that talks about that, or watch this animated infographic that says that. All of these resources are doing exactly the same thing. They're telling you the same thing. They're just using different formats. The hope is the student who's happy to read will read it. The student who doesn't want to read, but also has to commute to work or has to commute to uni, is going to listen to the podcast. The student who just has the time to sit down and watch something because it's not in motion, but doesn't really like the text resource, will watch the video or the animated infographic. What's the result going to be? That the student will get the information that you want them to get. So they will not turn up at your tutorial and sit in the back listening to Spotify because they've got no clue what's going on. Right. So this is what we're going to do in the workshop. Think about how we can use these technologies to repackage our content in order to deliver it in a multimodal fashion. Think about the opportunities that the AI is giving to allow us to do this. The aim is to stop our VLE from being so boring and make it more relevant to this generation, and maybe reduce our workload. Who's happy with their workload? Is your manager in the room, by the way? If management is in the room, then I will assume all of you are happy with your workload. If your head of school is not in the room, then maybe everybody's thinking work allocation models and how far they are from the reality. There's also some opportunity here to reduce the demands on staff because the technology can actually automate quite a lot of these processes. Right. Now, what types of technologies am I talking about? Let me see. You've been seeing the same cat for a while, so let me change the picture of the cat that I've got on the slide. Okay. Now we have a different cat. As you can see, my slides are hugely informative and full of particular value. Let me see. Okay. Now, I've been experimenting with two basic types of AI avatars. Why am I using the avatars? Because I think they provide a more engaging visual resource. Everybody can make a video using some B-roll, which means stock footage of various things. But the stock footage is perhaps a little generic, a little bit disengaged from what we're trying to do. The opportunity that is presented by the avatar is that you can have lifelike forms that you can use in a variety of settings. And what is fun is that you can create an avatar of yourself and use that to deliver the educational content. So that's why I've been, plus, if you're a narcissist and you like looking at yourself, opportunities are endless. Yes. Every time, but I found an explanation. The reason why it's me on all the videos dressed as a cowboy, then dressed as a ballerina, then dressed as what else do I have? I'm in a toga in ancient Greece. I'm a diver. I'm a skydiver. I'm all sorts of things. The reason why all of them are me, I thought is for copyright protection, because there's not much point in anybody stealing the video to, to play this face. But also it is funny. Yeah. So the idea for the educational use is that you can personalize the delivery through the avatar for your students. So you're not getting some generic imagery or a generic avatar to narrate content that relates to your class, but you can actually create your own digital clone. So it is you talking to your students. And this can enhance the engagement and it can enhance the feeling of belonging within the student group, because the students, hopefully, I've got no data for this, but hopefully the students will connect better with the avatar of their actual teacher as opposed to a generic form. Now, these avatars come in two varieties. One is the avatar that you can use to create asynchronous video. You can use it for recordings that then you can play later. But we've also got the opportunity to create live avatars. So you've got something that can actually interact in real time with the students. And I've got a demonstration of this that I'm going to show you in a moment. But why would we want the live streaming avatar? What is that going to achieve? What's the last time that you called some help service? Anybody got any issues with your gas and electricity supplier lately, and you tried to talk to them? Yeah. When you use the chat to advisor, now you're talking to an AI bot. If you call them on the phone, you're also talking to an AI bot. It's just that it doesn't necessarily identify itself. What the streaming live avatar does is exactly the same. It offers you the opportunity to communicate in real time and to have an actual discussion with the AI. The added advantage is that it does this with the visual form of your choosing. So you could create a streaming avatar of yourself and make it available for the students to call on demand and interact with. Now, what could be, we're going to discuss the applications of this in a moment, but what could be some initial applications of this? It could be student support. Do you ever get emails from the students at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday asking when the assessment is due? Or is that only me? For some reason, my students will only email between 3 and 5 in the morning on a weekend. Maybe they come back from clubbing and they're thinking, didn't I have an assessment for Monday? Instead of checking the handbook, how about I just email Ioannis? What else is he gonna do at 4 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday? So if we have our customer service bot or customer service assistant on the VLE that the student can bring up, then the student could be asking those questions to the bot in a video conversation in real time and get their answers straight away without having to email you. This is one of the ways in which this can reduce demands on staff and staff workload, because then you don't have to start your day Monday morning answering, about 15 stupid questions about stuff that they should know already, because they have asked the bot and they got the answer themselves. Now, why is there the need to have the visual representation of the tutor to answer those questions through a live avatar? There is no need, because you can have a customer service bot as a text tool that can do this. My suggestion is just that the video avatar can help with the connection. So when the student goes onto the VLE, he's talking to you, to your image. So the student is thinking, I'm talking to the tutor, I'm more likely to ask a question. I'm more likely to get an answer that I respect. I'm more likely to act on that answer. That, in any event, is the theory. So the customer service function of the live avatar is this, but also it has some very important implications for some of the stuff that we have to do, but we have got difficulty doing. Do you engage in any clinical style examinations in your courses? Something that requires a live interview of the candidate, any oral assessments or anything like this? Do you guys have that?
Yeah.
It's possible that some clinical examination that requires some role play or it requires an interaction with somebody else is necessary assessment as part of your course. The difficulty we're having with this is that having high numbers of students means that we struggle physically to conduct oral examinations. When we had our students to do oral presentations in groups, we were there the whole day. So there would be a panel of 2 teachers because you needed first and second marker that we would sit there for 8 hours in a row and listen to student presentations. This is both demanding in terms of time, but it's also perhaps not great in terms of attention and the quality of the feedback that we produce, because after the first couple of hours, you just lose the will to live and you're not paying attention anymore. Uh, we could use the avatars to have a real time discussion and interaction with the students in a clinical setting, including for assessment, and then use the recording of that interaction in order for us to produce the mark. Now, I'm not suggesting here that the AI tool would be marking the student. This is a discussion for a different workshop. But what I'm suggesting is that instead of having the staff time and the room time to be able to do all these clinical engaged oral examinations, the students could have these with the avatars, and then we could mark the recording of their discussion. In the law context, when we're preparing people for the solicitor's examinations, we need to take them through client interviewing. We need to take them through discussions with partners, discussions with courts. So there's a how do you behave in a police station, for instance. So there's a great opportunity for clinical style assessment that needs to be done. In medicine, clearly there are applications of this. In psychology, every sort of scenario that requires a bit of role play, that the student is the practitioner and I am the patient or I am the client, all of this can be replicated by the AI to produce this level of discussion. So to summarize, we're having 2 avenues to deploy those avatars. One is for recordings, which leads to asynchronous type interaction with the students, and the other one is for synchronous type discussion for clinical style examinations, either in a formative or in a summative sense. And we're going to see in a moment the technology that might allow us to do this. Now, key question is, do you guys already know all this stuff? Or is this new for anybody? Because if I'm telling you stuff that you already know, now is the time to tell me. So do we have anything new from what we're saying here, or is this kind of preaching to the choir in a way?
I think we're all interested, Ioannis. We possibly don't have a lot of experience of working with avatars. So that's why we're sort of here today to learn from you, really, other than dabbling a little bit. I think we possibly, you're the one who has the knowledge. You have a chat there. I'm aware this stuff exists, but not how to use it.
Okay, so who would be give me a wave if you would be confident to have your face as an interactive avatar. Who would like to do that? I can tell you. you get control of the avatar, so you can make yourself look thinner or more fit or younger or with better hair. Yes, yeah. There's so many things we could do. Right. So, shall we play a video so you guys get to see what the recorded version looks like? So I can try and share with you as they do in cooking shows. I can share one that I've made earlier. Uh, and actually, not that long ago, I made this one fresh this morning, just for you guys. Okay, let me see if I can figure out where all the buttons are, and I'm gonna try and share the video. Hopefully, the sound should play. If the sound does not play, then wave at me, and I'm going to try it again. So let's see, share sound. Okay, I'm going to attempt to play it now.
All right, so you're about to start preparing for SQE1. Exciting, but also a bit overwhelming, right?
That's exactly how I feel. There's so much material, I don't even know where to begin. Everyone keeps mentioning providers, paid courses, question banks. I'm a bit lost.
Totally understandable. But before you start throwing money around, my advice is to build your foundation first. And you don't need to spend a penny to do that.
Free resources? But are they any good?
Actually, yes. One of the best places to start is Dr. Ioannis's YouTube channel. He's got loads of short, clear videos covering the key topics for SQE1, contract, tort, criminal, you name it. And it's specifically geared towards SQE candidates, so you're not wasting time on irrelevant theory.
I've seen a few people mention it online. Is it mostly long lectures?
No, that's the beauty of it. Most of the videos are bite-sized, 5 to 10 minutes, breaking down one topic at a time.
Okay. Now, were you guys able to see the visual and to hear the sound properly? Okay. What do you think? Does this look realistic or does it look fake? Okay. Does it bother you that it looks fake?
Yeah.
Bro, I don't understand what this was all about. Yeah, because I didn't have control of this. So the kind of hand movement at the front, I kind of get, but then when he kind of started going, I'm thinking, is he doing a Macarena? What's he thinking? Um, and our reaction to the fakeness of the avatar could be a generational thing. Now, I cannot see very clearly in the picture, but I'm kind of guessing that all the people in this room are above the age of 20, yeah? Yeah, let's say between 20 and 28. Is that the right? Um, Now, strangely, the teenagers are not bothered by the fakeness. This is something that is a concern for educators and something that really bothers people a lot. The extent to which we are trying to make avatars that are realistic, and the more realistic they get, the more alienating the experience, because you get into this kind of uncanny valley scenario. The students, they really are not bothered, which I don't quite have an explanation for. And I have experimented with a variety of things. I've experimented with videos such as the one that I showed you that is trying to be as realistic as possible. And then I've tried cartoons, I've tried animations, I've tried things that clearly looked that they were AI generated, to see the difference in response. Very oddly, there seems to be no difference in response depending on how realistic the image is. So I think the aim of the generation is for the visual to be attractive enough to keep the user engaged, but not to be the focus of attention. So the logic behind the visual is that it keeps you there, but you're not thinking about the visual, you're thinking about the message in the presentation. And I think if that's where we're at, then we are successful in packaging our educational content to send it into this direction. We don't want the student to keep thinking, why is his hand moving up and down? Or, the mouth doesn't match. Or this guy has got too many teeth. What the hell's happening with the mouth? So we want them to forget about, the teeth. The teeth has been a problem. I look like in some of the videos, I look like a kind of Stephen King horror film character. These sets of teeth, and we don't want the student to find the visual distracting. We want the student to find the visual engaging, and then to keep them on message. Usually it's the audio part of the message that is more important. So the attempts to create the more engaging content with a video have either been using the avatars to narrate, as I showed you now, or putting the avatars in situations where they role play some. This one looks a little bit like a podcast. I mean, there are other sort of 2-character podcast style videos that guide the students through the material through a discussion. We also have single presenter videos where the avatar is delivering a lecture with a little bit of audio backing. An interesting application could be to put the avatar in setting. For instance, I have to teach a lot of cases to young undergraduate students that explain key legal concepts, and these cases are predominantly from the Victorian era. So I've experimented with getting the characters and placing them in the era to narrate the case. So I've got myself walking around Victoria. Well, it was supposed to be Victorian England, but there are some people with kind of roadman jackets. I don't understand why it did that. So I'm walking around Victorian London dressed as a Victorian gentleman, then explaining the case. I have one. Are you guys familiar with the case that established the law of tort, where somebody was drinking a ginger beer that had a snail inside, and then they tried to sue the manufacturer?
That you're using, yeah.
Yeah. So I made a video of this from the point of view of the snail. So I've got the snail coming out of the bottle and narrating the case. So again, these are all gimmicks, right? But the idea is that you repackage content that you wanted to deliver to the students, and the avatar does the narration in a setting that is unexpected enough to keep them watching. So either it historically places it in context, or it creates a sort of random, unexpected character to do this. Is anybody in here thinking, what's the point of doing this when you could just record yourself delivering the lecture or delivering the message? Anybody's thinking that? Yes.
It sounds to me that the program are teaching so what's called horrible histories. So it sounds the same premise, only virtual. And you use technology to manage yourself instead of own a studio production and get actors, and so you're creating these situations where people wouldn't listen to you otherwise, and they're making it enjoyable and listenable. So it's the same premise here, could use the ask the AI to do it the same way. But can actually what's in my head as well is the video that you use, was that your own voice or was that AI generated? Because a lot of the AI generated voice, there's one in particular that's used a lot by different people for different things. And then that gets muddied in the water of being engaging. So, was it your voice?
This one is not my voice, no. So this video was produced by not uploading pictures of me. I asked ChatGPT, I uploaded a profile picture of me and I asked ChatGPT to describe the picture. And then I fed the prompt into Google's image generator to produce the man. I used the picture of my daughter to produce the woman. And then I used Google's speech to text to generate the voices, but I selected the style of voice that I want. It would also be possible, since you're uploading the audio file subsequently to the software that does the lip sync. It would be possible to upload your own voice, and I've done this. I've uploaded recordings of myself in the past as well. But my initial thought was, if any of you are thinking that this just seems like overkill, why don't we just record the lectures ourselves? And if that, because this is a concern that has come from colleagues in the past when we were having these discussions, the answer is we stuck at recordings. We're terrible at it. The University of London, for the people that are conveners for its courses in the distance learning program, they invite the conveners and sit them in front of a green screen, and then they do recordings of them presenting the course, presenting a couple of key concepts, talking about a past exam paper, that kind of stuff. You know, they're using this to kind of enhance what they're putting in the virtual learning environment. Every single one of those videos could be a jihadist hostage video. They all look like they're held at gunpoint. And I've done, I mean, I do live streaming like once a week, and I've been doing it for years, right? But when I did mine, it's such an alienating experience to sit in front of the green screen and to read the auto cue that you really look like you're sat in front of a firing squad. Now, we could narrate all that stuff. We could record ourselves doing all that stuff. The problem is that hardly nobody has the time to actually do these recordings in studio to achieve good levels of quality. And if we do them at home, the quality is likely to be very low to be usable, and the overall experience of the user is not going to be great. So what this type of technology can do is that it overcomes our physical limitations in terms of space, in terms of time. It also overcomes the difficulty that we have looking alive when we're getting recorded. If you had the time to do excellently, nicely narrated audio bits of your lectures, and then you could give somebody your recordings to sort of package for the VLE, that would be fantastic. But it really takes a great deal of time to record on the microphone at the good pace and lively delivery and adequate quality for it to be usable. So the AI tools, both in text to speech generation, but also in the avatar visual generation, overcome these weaknesses that we've got. And that's why I'm keen to produce using those tools, because my physical environment and the time that I've got available does not allow me to actually achieve similar quality by a real life recording. Now, of course, the problem that I need to overcome is the sort of uncanny valley effect, and whether students will be resistant to the AI generation simply because they dislike AI generation. But we're talking about younger people here. that watch this garbage on TikTok all day long. I think the chances of them objecting to the AI in principle are much lower than the chances of them objecting to your nostril for an hour and a half. Right now, shall we have a short visit from the AI live avatar? And then I'm going to give you guys a break because we've been sat in here for an hour and you look like you could get another cup of coffee. Right now, I have to figure out how to turn on. Yes. So we're doing this old school. Yes. Because if I try to share the avatar on the screen, it doesn't work. So I'm going to put the avatar on the iPad and try to get, there we go, try to get the avatar on the screen, try to get the screen closer together. Now, at some point, this is going to fall down. Don't panic. It's not my iPad, it's the university. Okay, so let me see. So I will not need to share the screen for this one. But this is going to be a live, this is the live streaming avatar. So we can talk to it in real time. Any of you use the ChatGPT on your phone that you can talk to it? Have you tried this? Yeah. So that works very well and it's got no lag. Like you can discuss in real time. So this is the same experience that normally we get from the avatar when it actually works. So let's see. Let's see if we can get it to work.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Whoops. Hello there. Who are you? Would you care to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Dr. Ioannis, a law academic hailing from Greece, but now enjoying life in London. I specialize in business, contract, and corporate law, and I help folks prepare for the SQE, the solicitor's examination here in England. I'm all about making law easier to digest with a bit of humor. After all, who said law can't be fun? How can I assist you today?
Yeah, but hang on a second. If you are Dr. Ioannis, then who am I?
Ah, an excellent question. You are my delightful conversation partner, perhaps a curious law student, a professional looking to enhance their qualifications, or simply someone seeking knowledge. Whatever the case, I'm here to help. What brings you to chat with me today?
Well, it's not just us here. We have a group of people that are watching us in a workshop. The workshop is on AI avatars and how this type of technology can enhance the student experience. Do you have anything to say about that?
Fantastic. Hello to everyone in the workshop. AI avatars are truly exciting tools for enhancing the student experience. They can offer personalized assistance, provide immediate feedback, and create engaging learning environments. Imagine a student having a 24/7 mentor available to explain complex legal concepts or assist with coursework. Plus, we can keep things interactive and fun. Who wouldn't want a little humor in their learning journey? I'd love to hear how you all envision using AI avatars in education. Any thoughts?
Yeah, but you sound a bit enthusiastic, but don't you have a conflict of interest here? Because you are actually a streaming avatar. What are the chances that you're going to say they're no good?
You caught me there. It's true. I'm an AI avatar. I've been biased in favor of technology, but I genuinely believe that the right tools can really enhance education. Like any tool, the key is using it effectively. With the right balance of human interaction and technology, we can create more enriching learning experiences. It's all about exploring the possibilities. What do you all think? Any concerns about using AI in education?
Oh yeah, don't get us there. This is coming on later in the workshop because I'm sure people have got a lot of concerns. But is there any actual value in you having? Oh, what happened? You went offline. Oh, I think our overlords, when we started to hit that there might be a problem with the AI stuff, our online overlords shut us down. Let me bring him back. Somebody's listening to this conversation. Right.
Today.
Yeah, I'm good there. I've got.
You see? Well, hello to him as well. We're all ears if he wants to jump in or has any questions. Please go ahead. Need to hear you're doing well. What's on your mind today? Anything specific you want to talk about?
Okay, I've got a specific
What
question.
would you like to discuss?
I have a specific question for you, Mr. Avatar. What is the value of you having the same face as me? Do you think it makes any difference for the students if the online avatar has the same face as the tutor?
Ah, that's a fascinating question. Having a similar face might create a sense of familiarity and connection, don't you think? It could make students feel more at ease, as if they're learning from someone relatable. But ultimately, it's the quality of the content and teaching that really makes the difference. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that you're saying exactly the same stuff that I said earlier, which makes me wonder if you are the avatar or if I am the avatar. Yes, I think
Well, let's see that as a philosophical twist. Maybe we're both avatars in this digital realm, sharing thoughts and insights. Ah, philosophical twist. Are we both avatars? Just two guys trying to make sense of it all. Sounds like a fun debate. What other thoughts do you have on this?
and I would bring you closer to the camera so the people in the room can see. So you see right here, the quality of this is not great. So here you don't have the problem that we had earlier that the AI avatar looks too polished and fake. This looks as bad as I do. Okay. So I'm going to turn him off now. Right, there we go. So this is the synchronous discussion AI assistant customer support style avatar that you could use either in a prompt test for what you wanted, either in a formative or summative assessment sense for some type of clinical style examination, or you can use it as support for your students and the students kind of call up and have discussions with it when they know. Thank you for still being here. You haven't acted like our students who sometimes leave in the process of a seminar and then they never come back. So you're a dedicated crowd, so I really appreciate this. Let's talk a little bit about the tech that supports all this, because I think we have seen enough of the application, either in the video creation or in the streaming avatar. We've seen a little bit of the motivation behind it and how it could help us with student engagement, or perhaps to spice up our content, or if you're the creative type, give you something fun to do when you're pretending to work. Yeah. But let's think about the technology that is here. None of this stuff is particularly expensive, at least for the moment, because we are still at the point of introduction and integration of the technology that either everything is still being tested, therefore it's free, or it is beginning its life as a commercial product, so they're not fully charging for expensive licenses just yet. This presents us with a great opportunity. We get ChatGPT by paying $24 a month, which is not that much. It's probably we spend pretty much the same on Netflix, like purely for entertainment. So if we're paying for something even for personal use as a tool that can also help us with our work, I don't think that's a very significant expense. Interestingly, the avatar generation tool that I'm using costs pretty much the same as ChatGPT. So it comes out a little bit more expensive as $29 plus VAT. It's all in dollars, unfortunately, because all these things are American. But the way the dollar is going, is probably going to get cheaper. So $29 plus VAT per month to get the personal license for the generation tool for the avatars that is called Heygen. That's Heygen. Why am I using those guys? Because I am cheap and I will always go cheapest. Yes. I will always go for the cheapest thing first that gives me the longest, the most plentiful license I can have. And the great thing about Heygen is that it gives you a free level that you can have up until 3 generations per month of 3 minutes each. And you have pretty much the functionality of the entire product, and you can play around. So the only limitation is on the length and the number of videos that you can create. So if you guys want to play with it, you can just go and create your own license on the free tier, and then you can play around with all that stuff all you want. What Hagen does is that it has in its background a series of other tools. It uses, for instance, I'm not sponsored by these guys. I'm not working for them. I'm just a user like everybody else. So I'm evaluating different tools, but there's like no the only reason why I chose to use this product is that it seemed to be at a very cheap price to be doing all the things that I wanted to do. And that's why I'm sharing this with you. If I find another one that does, better stuff, I'm going to change my recommendation. But Hagen is a congregation of different AI tools. The streaming avatar that I displayed, rather incompetently on the iPad has ChatGPT in the background. You could connect it to different LLMs if you wanted to, but its default is ChatGPT, which means that if you don't prompt any constraints, you can have a full discussion about anything with the guardrails in place from ChatGPT. So I've been trying to, as part of my efforts to get in trouble with the law, I've been trying to get the tools to produce things that would get the average person in trouble. So if you see a headline in some sort of tabloid that says law academic arrested and deported, that's gonna be why. It didn't work. This is the security aspect is probably something at the forefront of everybody's mind. We are concerned about data privacy. We're concerned about security. We are concerned about what the AI tools might tell our students. And this is one of the key inhibitors from adoption of these technologies by universities. So this is certainly something that we need to address. In addition, there are other ethical and environmental concerns and so on that, we can get into a little bit later. But the key danger with a technology that we unleash on the students and the students can interact with is on the guardrails. What if it starts telling the students crazy stuff? So Hagen offers you two things. If you don't prompt the avatar, the real life talking one, if you don't prompt it yourself, it will have the limitations that come with ChatGPT. For instance, I was having grand discussions with it about anything, about the weather, about how to take care of my cats, about how to get my cats down from the roof, which was, the point of a previous presentation. And what should I have for lunch? Some suggestions on fitness. And then I asked it, what would be the best way to get rid of the wife? Very interestingly, it pointed me to mental health material. And it gave me the phone number to the Samaritans. So the wife's still here, not today, because she's on a business trip, and I can prove it. Okay, so no, don't call the authorities or anything. Everybody's still fine. But it just shows that even in an like a discussion that has not been carefully curated by us, the students are unlikely to have dangerous, problematic conversations because the built-in guardrails from the main commercial tools will prevent them from doing this. So if you ask ChatGPT, can you write my assessment for me? Or you ask this avatar, could you produce and send me the assessment? It will say, I can help you produce your assessment, but you should do your own work, and these are the reasons why you should, and so on. So this takes away some of the anxiety with having an AI tool that thinks for itself, discuss with our students. Specifically within Hagen, you can construct the environment and constrain the avatar to only discuss within that environment. For instance, I brought the avatar in the classroom in the different settings to test how it behaves. For my first year undergraduate students, we take them through a set of characters throughout the term. And these characters engage in a variety of relationships that got contract and tort law connotations and so on. So we keep the characters consistent, but we build the case study, and we're thinking that this makes it a little bit more lively for the students. So I instructed the avatar to be one of the characters, and I brought it in class to discuss with the students, for the students to ask it further questions to expand on the case study. The prompt was very simple. It was like, you are the character in this case study. I copy pasted the case study information that we give to the students. And I said, do not discuss about other things, stay in character at all time, respond to the questions from the group. And it did this very effectively. Now, to be honest, we were in a seminar room in the same way that you guys are now. The avatar was on the screen and I was together with the students in the room. So it was very unlikely that the students would ask the avatar what is the best way to cheat in our assessment. But even with the discussion that they had in trying to get nuances out of the case study, what happened with the person's family, what were the reactions, what were financial implications, the avatar managed to stay on track, and it expanded on the case study because in its background it's got ChatGPT without which it allows it to go on endlessly, but at no point did it diverge into areas that would have been inconsistent. So if I was role playing and I pretended to be the character, I probably would have said the same stuff. So that gives me confidence that we can construct the character for the avatar and he's going to stay in character. In another experiment, I brought the avatar to a postgraduate banking class, and I said, my prompt was, you are the CEO of the business, you're meeting your legal advisors, you want advice on an impending merger, but I also gave it emotional prompts. I said, you don't like the lawyers, you think that you're spending too much money, you think they're wasting your time, you don't have a lot of time this morning, you're in a hurry, you're in a bad mood. Spectacularly, the avatar not only stayed within character, but it also respected the emotional prompt, which made for a very engaging and very funny class interaction because I brought up the avatar on the screen, like you guys are seeing me now, and I said, good morning, I would like to introduce ourselves. We are your legal team here for the merger. And the avatar cut me off and said, I don't want to waste any time on introductions. I've got specific questions that I expect you guys to answer, and you're on the clock. Left everybody flabbergasted because the students really were not expecting this. And it stayed, and I had selected like an old grumpy man to be the character in the avatar. So it stayed in character, including the emotional prompt all the time. So HeyGen, and by extension, different tools that might offer this functionality, allows you to create an interactive live streaming avatar that can be called upon either by the user as a customer support bot or by the teacher in a classroom, and it will behave within the constraints of the prompt that the teacher is giving the bot, and the prompt is given in natural language. So you don't, because it also uses ChatGPT to interpret the prompt. So you don't have to worry about any, we've all sat through workshops when they talk to us about prompt engineering. Prompt engineering effectively means talk to it like it's a child. So if you give as much information as possible in natural language, as if you were talking to an 8-year-old, and then the bot will behave accordingly. So this is the technology that powers the interactive avatar. At the moment, I do not have an alternative for you for the interactive avatar because all the others wanted me to pay first and test later, and I have limited budgets. But for the video creation, we have a lot of options. The main idea behind the avatar video creation is that you have got something that can lip sync a character. Such technology has existed for a very long time. It's gradually getting better. Does your university subscribe to Adobe Cloud and the Adobe suite of programs?
No.
There's a good chance that if you got Adobe Acrobat to open your PDFs and you've got the full version that allows you the annotations and so on and the signature, then this probably comes with the institutional license for the Adobe suite that contains things like uh, tools that can do video editing, audio editing, a lot of other stuff. Even if you don't have the license, you can go online to Adobe Express. Adobe Express is free on a certain tier, and if you want more specific stuff, then there's the paid version that comes with Adobe Cloud. Adobe Express itself offers you a video generation function where you get to select a character, you upload an audio file, and then it will lip sync that character. So if you're looking for some basic animations that are cartoon style animations with a character that lip syncs, then you could use Adobe Express for free in order to achieve this. The benefit of platforms like HeyGen or Synthesia or there's a bunch of them actually. The benefit of those platforms is that not only it does the lip sync, but it creates more realistic facial expressions, meaning that not only the mouth will match the sound, but then it blinks, it moves a little bit, depending on how you structure the prompt. I've got some that have got nice flowy hair in the wind that looks very nice. Yeah. So you could also design the environment both in the movements of the body of the character and in what happens in background movement. So depending on how complex you want your video to be, you can use these types of programs to create this for you. And the audio that goes with it could either be text to speech, where you write your text and then it narrates with the voice of your choice, or you can pre-record the text, pre-record the audio yourselves, so it is your own voice, or use a different text to speech machine to create the audio that then you upload to the program for the creation of the avatar. If you want a recommendation, the best in the market at the moment is 11 Labs. It has the capacity to do really spectacularly accurate voice clones. It can generate a whole range of wonderful voices with accents and attitudes and colors of your choice, but it can also create a very accurate clone of yourselves. If you're all academics, you probably all have access to audio recordings of your own lectures. If you upload 2 or 3 hours, I know this is, it says it can do it with a few minutes, but if you want an actual clone that then you can use to call your mom and your mom won't be able to tell the difference, then you need 3 hours of recordings. And trust me, I tried it. Now my clone calls my mom and listens to her complain for hours. So, and it was easy for me because I've got audio recordings of the lectures that we captured at the university, so it's not like a big deal. But the voice clone is actually super accurate, and the benefit of doing a voice clone is that then it allowed me to use the text to speech function to take my lecture notes and turn them into a script for a podcast that then is narrated really nicely in my own voice. And it did this really, really quickly. If I had to put this, I could have done this by re-recording myself, but this would have taken days. I did this in half a day, in one morning. Which comes back to the idea that I told you at the beginning about multimodal levels of learning. you can use the AI tools to recycle and upcycle your own educational content to create new stuff that the students were actually going to get to use. You can take your lecture notes, or you can take a transcript from an existing delivered lecture, give it to ChatGPT or to Gemini or to another generational tool, and say, turn this script into a podcast of X duration. So you turn your own lecture notes, your own existing transcripts, your own existing recordings into a script for a podcast. And then you take that script and you give it to the text to voice tool, and it voices it for you, either in your own voice or in a voice of your choice. And you have very quickly created a very good quality, studio quality podcast explaining the content that you need to give to the students very, very nicely. You could use that stuff to create your own channel on Spotify or on Apple Music, that you put your own podcasts. I mean, a lot of our colleagues are engaged in creating podcasts. They've got their own channels that do this, so they can share part of their work and their experience with colleagues and students and the wider public. So this is an excellent way to generate this type of resource that then you can make available either for university use or more broad. So all of these things come and slot together. So you've got the opportunity to create the avatars, the opportunity to voice the avatars, and within all of this process, you can feed in your existing material, your existing captured content, your own recordings, your own notes, your own information. So you don't have to design everything from scratch. And I think the recycling concept is very important here. Your time spent on this should not be enormous. The whole point is that you can use those tools to accelerate a process. You're thinking that you need a new resource. These tools can allow you to create quickly at great quality this new resource. This is not for you to spend your entire summer trying to create 10 podcasts to cover a 10-week course. Yeah. So tools, right? Heijen can do the interactive avatars. Heijen and a variety of others can do the video avatars. If you want sort of more basic cartoon versions, you can do all these even with free tools really nicely, like Adobe Express. If you are really ambitious, do we have anybody here who works on media? Do you do any sort of media production as part of your job?
You keep your answer in ChatGPT at the story tool.
Yes, I would love. Oh, sort of screen. I was the Sorry, yeah, we just have a pop up on the screen and we're just checking it, but it's saying close app, so I'm afraid for pressing a little.
You open the app, yeah, like yeah.
You see that we mentioned ChatGPT and it popped up. Yeah, we're good.
Neil saved the day.
GPT.
So if you are actually doing media production as part of your role, or you're doing this, as a side hustle or for fun, or if you're more creative, you can actually go a step further with the generational tools without having to spend any additional money. So if you have a subscription to ChatGPT, you can create really good images with ChatGPT, and you can use Sora, which is OpenAI's text to video or image to video tool, to create really interesting stuff. And this is already contained within your $24 a month ChatGPT subscription. The spectacular thing with Sora, which is the video tool, is that you can upload a picture and then you can ask it to create videos on the basis of that picture, and it will keep the characters exactly as they are in the picture. So you can achieve character consistency in the videos that you're creating, which has been one of the key problems with generated video, because you don't want to produce random clips that every time they're different. So if you're teaching an architecture course or you're teaching an interior design course and you're trying to show the students in different video clips how they would outfit a room, you cannot have the room changing every time. So you want to keep the room the same. So the way that you can keep the room the same would be by uploading a reference image into Sora, is SORA, yeah, and then asking it to generate every time on the basis of that reference image, and that ensures consistency across your generations. And I have used this to spice up the avatar videos that I make, because after a while, the avatars become repetitive because they're designed to do lip sync effectively. They're not designed to do expressive environments in the background. So what I have done is I have created the avatar, then taken a screenshot of the avatar, uploaded that screenshot into Sora, and then ask it to create follow-on videos with that character. So when it gets a little bit boring to see the avatar just speaking, then the avatar can just go and turn around, pick a paper, do that, put it on the other side, right? So, and it will be the same character, but the fact that it does this makes it more real and spices up the delivery of the video and helps up with the narrative as well, and helps with engagement on the part of the students, because they might kind of switch off if they see the same thing for a very long time. So we've talked about the cost of all of this. Currently, the cost is either free because you're using the trial version or the free tier, or the cost is very low, which is great because none of us have got any money to spend. In terms of, I don't know, maybe you guys in Ireland have got a lot of money, but in the UK, we're kind of, looking behind the couches for kind of any coins at the moment to order catering. The cost is limited. The functionality is there. How much time are you going to spend doing that stuff? If you're doing it to teach yourselves, you can spend as much time as you want, because then you're upskilling yourself and you're learning something new and you're doing something creative and you're having fun. If you want to reduce the time that you spend, because this is a work-related task, then these tools can accelerate your workflow quite significantly. So none of this stuff is meant to take the whole day. And I know you don't believe me, so you're going to have to try it for yourselves. So if you want to create a basic animation in Adobe Express with one of its pre-made cartoon characters, try it. It's going to produce a really usable animation up to 5 minutes long that is going to happen in minutes. And if you had to sort of, even if you knew how to do it, it would have taken you a lot longer to design it using traditional cartoon making software. So the whole idea is to do stuff more quickly, more efficiently, enhance our ability to produce multimodal content for our students. So now is the time that I ask you guys questions. How do you see in your actual practice using some of that stuff? Can anybody here volunteer an idea of how you could use either the video tool or how you could use the interactive streaming video, for instance, in what you do with your own students?
Okay, so I two ideas. So we're delivering in masters, and one of the things we'll want them to do that we had flip the classroom. So you will want them to maybe read a few articles, and I think so. For example, what you just said, they're using Sora to take one of the text in that article. Maybe you can make it into a video, and once you pick your image. But I think that might just be an interesting way to look at it. But what I was really interested in was the fact that you can use the live streaming, the prompts with them. So I'm looking at do training for justice professionals and in relation to trauma-informed practice, and also to deal with victims of domestic and sexual abuse in the criminal justice system. And if you could use a prompt, if you could get them to talk, to a live streaming avatar and give them the prompt that this person, that person who is traumatized, how they might react, then that could be a really good way for them to role model their skills in how they and you could examine that then. So there's two ways on making up.
No, these are both great ideas. The primary use in my mind for the avatar is for this type of role play, for the streaming avatar, because we have such great difficulty doing this. We don't have the budgets to bring in actors or to bring in other people to pretend to be somebody. We don't have enough staff, and they don't have the time to actually come and do this together with the students. And when we did it in a peer fashion with the students, it never works because the students find it difficult to do it, or they think it's funny and they start kind of horsing around. So we do need somebody who religiously stays on character if they're meant to be the patient, if they're meant to be the client or something like this. So that's why I think this could definitely work with a streaming avatar. Just be mindful that if you are calling the avatar, then you control the situation and you also control the cost. If you make it available for the students to call the avatar on demand, then it becomes a lot more expensive and it becomes technically challenging because it needs to be integrated as an application into your VLE. But the way you described it, you're probably gonna be there with the student, with the candidates or the students when you bring up the avatar.
I'll bear that in mind. I'd be
Now, for your first idea, to get the students to make something themselves, so they take the initiative, what we have been doing in the past is asking students to create scripts for a podcast. So one of our exercises was imagine that you're the podcast host, and we would like you to discuss the topic of, say, business and human rights, or supply chain due diligence in your podcast. And this was as part of an assessed exercise for the students, and they were asked to create a podcast, not only the narrative bits, but also what they would choose as music, what they would choose as elements to sort of dress it up to make it engaging for the audience. So it encouraged the students to see this as a creative exercise, not simply as a textual exercise for the script. What we can do with these technologies now is that we can go a step further and actually ask the students to produce the audio of the podcast. And the voice to the text to voice generation tools can do this very effectively. And also some really basic sound effects and background music and so on can be integrated when you're making those audio podcasts. So that could be like a great idea, either as a formative, engaging exercise for the students, or even as part of an assessment. How about everybody else in the room? Do we have any ideas as to other ways in which we could use this?
I was thinking for a program leader, it would be really useful to have the live streaming one, because as you said, all the emails that come in over the weekend so it'd be great just to upload the program handbook, all the materials, and have it generate answers based on that. But it sounds like from what you said that it would be probably, so where would the students access that? Would it be via the VLE or, as you said, an app? I mean, they'd have to log on to Moodle to find the link to ask the question, and they probably won't do that. They probably just, or could you have an automatic reply to your email with the link to the live stream?
The best way to do this would be to integrate onto your VLE in the same way that you call up a chat support function. So currently we're using Blackboard, other places are using Moodle. There's usually like some sort of icon for help at the bottom that you can bring up, and sometimes it brings up a chat bot. Now, the idea of the interactive avatar is that it's basically you can summon it. Have you guys noticed how on these online meetings always feel like a seance? That you can you hear me? Can you hear us? Are you there? So, uh, so in the same way that you would click the thing at the bottom right corner and bring up the chat bot, and you say, how do I see my module information? You would bring up the avatar. So that is something that your IT from the university would need to do to incorporate that application into your VLE. But of course, it could be customized depending on whether you want it to be a generic avatar or whether you want it to be module specific. So it pops up for your own module and perhaps has your own image. It sounds fancy, but in fact, it's not. A lot of universities have already incorporated chatbots that are specific to the modules. So it's just the same background functionality. It's just that the chatbot also displays a visual as opposed to the textual function that we had before. In the UK, good luck convincing anybody to do this because it costs money. And as I said, we run out. But if you guys have the budget and you convince management that then you're going to win some sort of AI integration award by doing this, then they might pay for it. So yes, so that's a key for me. The sort of customer support function is a key function here that would be great if we had it, but because it's got more significant budget implications, it's something that needs to involve the institution. Any other ideas or suggestions?
Could you use it, say if you were trying to encourage students to collect data on them patient, you could upload the information, the data into the avatar, and then let the students sit down and interview the avatar as a patient, and then they're collecting data to the answers, and then they go off and write their assignment or their interpretation of that. Rather than then working out the actual patients. We're working with pharmacy students. So you could upload all of the data onto the avatar. They would ask whatever questions they want, and then they would formulate their own kind of project based on the answers or feedback.
Yes, absolutely. You could, the students could keep their own records of the interaction in order to write a diary, write a report, or use it as primary data to then construct a report. And also you can have a transcript of the conversation that's generated by the tool, and you can have a video recording of the conversation as well if you need it for assessment or verification purposes.
Can I just ask, is that like ethical then to do that with put all that information into an avatar? And it says secure, so I'm in smaller. Exactly. You don't that you get part of something and you can, and it would be private information. Oh no, and I would suppose whatever the student asked would be as much information as they would get. If they ask the right questions, they get more information or less. So it test their communication skills as well. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I don't know if that works.
Did you hear all of that, Janice?
You can normally control both whether the information is stored and whether the information is then used to train the Gen AI further. So for our purposes here, we need the ability to store or retrieve the information because then we would need to use this for our assessment purposes and our own monitoring. But we can actually say, do not use these things in advancing the model, do not put them into a general database. Now, in theory, even if you say, keep everything and use it for the advancement of the model, this is all anonymized and the data is not supposed to leak externally. Now, of course, everybody's concerned that it might. That's why law firms, for instance, are very careful about the use of Gen AI tools, because they want to have them in a segregated environment to ensure that their data is not going to appear or leak some. But for our purposes here, most of the time, there is no GDPR implication of what we're uploading onto the bots because the initial information is all anonymized anyway. Because we're running some other experiments with assessment. So we're using, or at least we're investigating the potential use of actual student assessments, feeding them into the Gen AI tools to help us with marking or to help us with the production of feedback. Since the submissions are anonymized already, there would be no GDPR related issues. The issue might be one of ownership of the data, meaning that are you giving data that you don't have copyright over, or there might be ethical concerns about did you actually get permissions from the students that it's okay to give their data to the bot. But this is something to think about. It is data and privacy concerns and GDPR compliance are a technical problem because the rules of the university most of the time prevent us from uploading content onto the bots. So in order for us to do this, not as testing, but to actually deploy some of those tools, we would need to check that this is compliant with university regulations as they stand at the moment, or get express permission for management to use this for specific purposes if it appears that the overall university rule does not allow us to do it. This is also dynamic because the rules about this and the way the universities understand what is allowed and what is not are changing every 6 months. So whenever you're ready to deploy, you should check with the university management that this is still consistent or it's now okay with university rules before you go ahead and do it. On the off chance that anybody notices what you've done and raises a concern, and then it becomes some sort of an issue. In reality, even though this is technically something to think about, I don't think it's a real life problem because all of this is done in the context of assessment. There isn't a real life consequence from putting these things into the tools. I mean, the ethical thing is something else, but in terms of somebody running out with our data and doing something, I think there's very little chance of that actually happening.
Well, we already know that the answers GPs are using ChatGPT to help with diagnosis of real patients. So I think that our data are there anyway.
Yeah, and yeah.
Sorry, I was just on the back of what the pharmacy guys were saying there. And I'm nursing. So at a simulation conference recently, I saw like again a patient assessment been taken, okay, by the student, and so the student is talking to the patient, to the simulation patient. But what I was really interested in is after the patient assessment was done, the AI tool gave feedback to the student, and you mentioned earlier on using AI tool to kind of, grade almost. So like would all the tools that you mentioned do that for you, or you need to go a step beyond?
Since all the tools are piggybacking on ChatGPT or Gemini, then you should look at the functionality of the machine behind them if you want to do these things. One of the concerns that I have is that the university is getting inundated by sales pitches from people who say, oh, we created this AI tool that does this, and then we created this AI tool that does that. And effectively, the only thing that they do is that they're wrappers on ChatGPT. So they take ChatGPT as the engine, and then they provide a preset visual with ready-made prompts. So there's really no reason to be paying somebody for the visual wrapper where you can have the engine itself for cheaper. So if you're thinking about using Gen AI in the context of assessment, marking, ideas, the peer review, formative feedback for the students. All of this functionality is already present within the base models that are going to be in the background. The visual tools that we're thinking about, like HeyGen, for instance, are offering us a combination of functionalities from different tools in order to achieve really specific results in video design. So that's why you could create the same videos that I'm creating with HeyGen by yourself, but you would need to use 3 or 4 different tools to achieve the same result. So HeyGen does have added value because it allows you with a single fairly cheap subscription to do all of that stuff instead of you having to take subscriptions to a lot of different tools and then manually bring the results together. But for everything else that is text-based, you can simply do all that stuff on ChatGPT or Gemini straight away. Okay, so do we have any other ideas for applications? Any of you guys here content developers? Is there like a YouTuber in the room or something? You should be more creative. It's so much fun. Yes. I started life as a cooking channel because from the year 2000 till about 2023, I had a cooking channel on YouTube. That's how I learned how to do video editing and all that stuff. Then I started getting chunkier because I was eating all the stuff that I was cooking. So I switched to avatars and stuff that, require me to eat less stuff.
We have another question here, Ioannis. Or a couple of 2 questions here.
Janice, I'm like you a law lecturer, and it's just a general question. Do you have a higher success rate, or do the students have a higher success rate in their exam? Because you're now giving them various different opportunities to learn rather than just simply reading texts that effectively they can watch videos or they can interact with the AI creations. So with all the extra work that you've actually put in, is there a payback from the students' point of view? Because I find with my students, about halfway through the actual semester, that a lot of them drop out, and they probably drop out for various different reasons. And like you probably found the same, when you give them reading lists, cases, and lectures to read. I think the problem is your kids today just don't read books, and they haven't studied history and then when they come in to do a law degree course, and I think practically none of them realize how much work is involved. So with all the work, is there an actual payback? Is there a payoff? Do the students perform better in their exams, or do you think do they learn, or they engage more?
I've got a very simple answer. No. It has made no difference. But it hasn't been deployed widely and consistently enough for us to be able to get robust data. All this is just getting tested in a couple of modules. If this was tested more widely across the student population and more consistently, then we would be able to test my hypothesis that improved quality would lead to better engagement and therefore to better student outcomes. So I simply have not had enough time and enough access to diverse enough student populations to get the data that allow me to say that this makes a difference. But different types of delivery, this kind of multimodal function, has allowed me to reach different audiences outside the university. So all of that stuff that I create, that I put on my YouTube channel, they're finding an audience there, and the feedback from that audience is that they're finding it helpful. So there is payback in the sense that I am recycling what would have been redundant educational content, which is now making a difference to an audience that is reaching, and that is making me feel that I'm achieving something. Otherwise, I would have felt that all this stuff is a bit of wasted effort, or content that's just gonna go to waste. So it makes me feel better about myself that the repackaging is allowing me to reach an audience. For us to be able to say with confidence that this is making a difference for our actual enrolled student populations, hopefully we'll be able to answer this in a year or so, but unfortunately not yet.
Because I've actually got the students to listen or to watch some videos. I teach EURO as well. And I found out for a while they were just switching off as well. So again, if you said there was an issue with the actual recitation, as you said, the vacation and ball sound or looked at it not being held.
But you know what actually helps here? Having very low expectations. Because the average, let me put it like this. From a video that it will get shown to people on YouTube 5,000 times, okay? 500 people will click on the link. It's shown 5,000 times. Only 500 people clicked on the link if you're lucky. And from the 500 people that clicked on the link, 90% of them only watched for the first 3 seconds. And that is considered success. So if you're getting 4 to 5% of the people that watch something to click on the link, this is considered exceptional. And if you get more than 10% or 20% of these people to watch past the first 5 seconds, this again is considered success. This is how social media works. This is what all our students are used to. So our expectation that they would click on a 1.5-hour video of our nostril and keep on watching past the first 5 minutes, I don't think it's a realistic expectation.
Okay, I think we have just one last question to actually. No, I was thinking we were talking about recycling, like what to already have. So like we're library card and there are loads of resource materials there, but it's quite text based. So it's probably a great way to kind of look at it, make it a little more interactive, and I learn it different way. Right, it's still text based. So. But I just wonder how easy it's something I got to do on a website. So it's not a recorded lecture in a DLE.
And
I bored you so much.
And I wanted to address a question that we had in the chat as well, as to whether we need to train the students to be able to use these tools. Actually, we don't. We don't have to train the students, because the whole point of these tools is that you can communicate with them in natural language. So we shouldn't be worried about having to go through extensive processes in order to teach our students how to use the tool, how to communicate with the tool, because the whole point is that you summon these tools and then you just talk to them in the same way that you would talk to your tutor, you would talk to a fellow student, you would talk to somebody on the street, and so on. So I'm not if we're asking them to do something more specific, then we need a little bit of an explanation. But the benefit of most of these tools is that they are intuitive. And if you play with them just a little bit, you realize that they're very, very easy to use. Do we have any other thoughts or observations, or what do you think? What do you guys?
To be honest, we had one person here that's from the library, and she was saying that a lot of the resources are very heavily text-based, and she's thinking it'd be a good idea to bring us to life a little bit.
Yeah. I just wondered how easy is it to incorporate on the website? And is it probably easy to have a VLE, or is it like just recite driven the material on a recording and it's similar, as I said, like it's someone pulled up and it's like calling out your material and then makes that into a video or to print.
It's very easy. It's very easy to upload video and audio on the VLE. Either you host it locally, or you just put it on YouTube and then you share the link. So with that, I've had no problem whatsoever. The only challenge was integrating the live interaction chatbot, because that meant that somebody from the technical team needed to figure out how to get it to work on Blackboard or on Moodle. But if you're simply creating audio visual content, its integration into your VLE is very, very straightforward. And plus, there's something that I wanted to mention here that has upset a lot of my colleagues. I suggested to the Open University that instead of paying a ton of money to stock databases to use their footage, we should just Gen AI create the material. And they all went wild because they thought, oh my God, it's not going to be real and it's not going to be appropriate. We have to pay at the Open University, we pay millions in copyright licenses to use stock footage. Or even worse, if you want to use video from a news organization, these things cost thousands of pounds. Now, if you're simply using visuals for illustration and you don't want the video to be the exact thing, so if you just want to say, Greco-Roman cathedral, and you just want a picture of something that looks like this, but it doesn't need to be a specific one, it is going to be so much cheaper to generate the image as opposed to licensing it from a database. If you guys are facing catastrophic budget constraints, this could also be something to look into.
Oh, good. I think we're good here, Ioannis. And we'd like to thank you for such a wonderfully engaging session today. We really enjoyed it, and I've promised Ioannis is very, very talented at what he does, and she's also one of the characters. So, Nahanad, we'd like to thank.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it was great to have a room full of lively people. Maybe next time we see each other, I can actually physically come there so I can drink that coffee, and have the food out.
Would it be wonderful? I'm sure we'll be in touch, Ioannis, and thanks so much, Gary.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Yeah.